Welcome back, Indiana Sports Speed Radio, coming to you here on the Thursday. Joined now by the great Cal Neddenriep from the Indy Star. Cal, how are you doing, sir?
Good, guys. How are you doing?
Fine. I'm sitting here with Dustin Schutte from Saturday Tradition, and I was talking about it's funny how Indiana kind of they had gotten up and owned recruiting in this state between Purdue and Indiana over the last couple of years, but now, buddy, that has flip-flopped. And not only that, Purdue landing an absolute great prospect in Brady Allen, who led his teams to a state championship since the last time we spoke. Led his team. They were behind, come from behind win. But, man, the numbers he's been putting up and right to the very end, he looks like that's the kind of quarterback that you want to have.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, he's all of 6'5", and looks like he can make all the throws. And I only had a chance to see him, other than only on film until the semi-state game against Tri-West, and saw him there. And I was walking the sideline that day in person, and it's sort of one of those things where you understand it's 3A football, but a quarterback when you see one, I think, in some aspect, and he, the way he can throw, over the middle, he can throw deep, he can take off and run a little bit. He's not a runner by the definition of a dual threat quarterback, I think, necessarily, but he can, he's athletic enough to get away from people when he needs to. And then the state championship game, he did have 3 interceptions, but some of that was Brebeuf and what they did to him. And then there was a deflected pass that was sort of a, fluky, but, and then he comes back and throws 5 touchdown passes and they win the game. And, so I know that's, I'm sure tough for IU fans to watch that, but for Purdue, man, that's a really good in-state get. And, he's going to get to campus here in about a month and start working, towards, I'm sure, trying to play as soon as he can. Who knows how soon that'll be necessarily, but I have a hard time. I haven't covered high school football for a long time. To me, quarterback is the hardest to project to the college level, because I've seen so many guys who I think gosh, he's going to be there's no way he can miss at the next level, or look what he did in high school at the 6A level, and it's just so hard to project, because you're going into different systems. Sometimes your offensive coordinator changes, so there's all these factors. Everything has to kind of fit together perfectly. So I'm not going to sit here and tell you Brady Allen's going to be the next coming of, Johnny Unitas, but I think he's a really good player, and I think he's probably going somewhere where he can make a difference, I would say, and relatively quickly, if not next year, I think, pretty quickly down the road. So, I don't know. I'm humbled enough by thinking certain guys are going to be great, and they're not. But everything would lead you to think Brady Allen's going to have a pretty good college career. I'll say that.
Yeah. Well, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and the fact that you look at Jeff Brom, who was able to turn Aiden O'Connell, who was going to be a Division III quarterback. He was a walk-on, and he might turn into an NFL draft pick. And certainly that's not. It's not the only case that's happened, but it's incredibly rare. So I think that there's also some faith that, even though he plays maybe at not the 5A, 6A level in the state of Indiana, there's still he has all the qualities that you want to see in a quarterback, and the fact that Jeff Brom has that track record of turning maybe not the most elite guys into really good, prolific passers.
Yeah, that's a great point, Dustin. I think that's, and that's maybe why you would think that this will work, and I know that, gosh, I mean, it's amazing. His numbers are amazing, and they do play a high level of 3A football in that area of the state, probably the best of anywhere. So he's
got all those Evansville teams down there.
Well, Evansville, you got Heritage Hills is always good. Southridge is always good. They play Evansville Memorial on their schedule. So they've got, it's not like he's, playing Podunk Central every game. So, but he set the state record for touchdowns is what I'm getting at. And wow. I know some people are, as we talk about this Mr. Football race, it's kind of like a political campaign sometimes where you're mudslinging the other guy. And I get so tired of that. But,
Yep.
It's like, hey, man, he even though he didn't play 6A, he played a good level of football, and so I do think Dustin's right. I mean, he's going to a place where Jeff Brom has a track record of being able to develop quarterbacks, and like I said, I wouldn't expect him to go in and light the world on fire, or even start as a freshman, but I do think he's got the ability and the system's right for him to go in and really be a good player in the future. So, I would, I've seen guys kind of get hurt by expectations and people expecting too much. And then it's like, well, then you feel like you're a failure in some aspects. I've seen, guys that happened to a lot of people before, especially you basically can only play one quarterback, and that's the hard thing too. It's like if a guy is on a hot streak and now you have the transfer portal adding into it, and your time runs out relatively quickly. So if you don't sort of get yourself in position to play right away, then you're maybe 2 years left and you still haven't done it, and then you're looking to go somewhere else. So but I think the future lines up for him to be an impact player.
Yeah, he's humble. He just doesn't try to play outside of himself, from what I've seen and heard. And I mean, I love the kid. He just seems like a really, really a good player, and one that wants to learn and get better. He's a good one. Indiana lost one that I think was even better than that, and Josh Hoover from Texas. I know you don't cover him, but man, oh man, they had a decommitment from Josh Hoover, 6A quarterback in Texas, had thrown for over 9,000 yards. And just watching him on film, golly, he's just, you can tell he's beyond his years. He understands the reads of the defense, and just calm as can be, and a great athlete. I've talked about this so much. We've had him on the show before, and he was talking about during COVID, he had nothing to do, but so they built a little chipping putt outside the back, and he would practice chipping and putting. And he went out and played golf for the first time and shot an 82, which just tells me what a great athlete he is. But he just kind of reminded me of Drew Brees, not to stay on the Purdue kind of thing, but I think he was going to be a great one, and Indiana lost that. Now Donaven McCulley is maybe the quarterback of the future. They've got Jack Tuttle, but Donaven McCulley, someone you're very familiar with, didn't have a great time throwing the ball this year in his time filling in for Indiana. But is that something you think that he can fix?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't expect Donaven, to come in and be great right away either, and I don't think the plan was for him to play this year, obviously, and he was supposed to be developmental track, and then you get thrown in the fire. That's kind of what I'm saying. People are like, well, I'm not saying you're saying that, Jim, but just, people get down on you, and then it's like, all right, let's move on to the next thing. And Donaven, even at the high school level, was not a great passer to begin with. It took him some time to learn how to. I think we even talked about this when he was coming in. When he was a sophomore, it was pretty. Yeah, as athletic as he was, and man, he could throw the ball deep, but it wasn't always accurate. It wasn't always the right reads. He's processing things at the 6A level though as a 15-year-old kid, and that's hard. I mean, that's really hard. Even as big and talented as he was, and he could take off run for 70 yards, but all those things that go into being a quarterback, even at that level, it took some time. And then by the time he was a junior and a senior, especially things really slowed down, and he just dominated a lot of teams. That season, he looked like a man against boys in a lot of ways. But so I think I totally expected there to be ups and downs, and you'd see flashes and then flashes of what's going on, and I think that's all part of it, and also also what's around you. How much help are you getting, and I think at times there wasn't a whole lot for him either. So I he played more than I thought he would, because of situations and injuries and that sort of thing. And I think he showed flashes, and I think he showed things he has to improve on, but not at all surprised by the way, the ups and downs he had for a guy who's just coming in, fresh out of high school.
Kyle, I don't think that this is groundbreaking news or anything, but there's some preliminary discussions being had with the NCAA and among commissioners now that it sounds like they're really considering eliminating that early signing period, or at least getting it back to the way it was, 4 or 5 years ago, where you just had that one signing day or that one signing period in February. What have you seen covering some of these athletes that are going to, big time schools? What are some of the issues with that early signing period? Because right out of the gate, it seemed like it was maybe a good thing that kids could commit. They would be done with their recruitment, but obviously there's some negative sides to it. What do you think is the biggest issue with the early signing period right now?
Well, yeah, that's a good point. I was reading about that yesterday. Some different outlets were writing about it, talking about it. I've heard some things even before that about, they need to get back to what it was before. And there still is that date is still there. But even almost immediately, I think the first year, I want to say Emil Ekiyor and Marquis Stepp, and I went to they signed early at Cathedral, Ekiyor to Alabama, and Stepp was going to USC at the time. He's at Nebraska now. Running back, but he those two guys, I remember that was that early. I think it was right before Christmas, and I remember writing about it. And kids really liked it. They could kind of, if they knew where they were going, get it over with. Get your thing signed, get it done. And I think from that perspective, I don't sense that the kids don't like it that way. I think the families, if you know where you're going, you might as well be able to sign that paper and get it in. But the problem arises too, I think, where you saw almost like, I want to say, gosh, 95% of the prospects were committed, or if not more, in that early period in December. And you can understand it because coaches want to get their recruiting class done, and then you maybe have a few kids you're still going after in the spring. You can kind of focus on or not the spring, but February, there's a handful who might wait. You can focus on transfers, getting your roster in place, and it kind of moves the whole calendar up. But the issues, I think, are more, less about the kids necessarily, but the circus of a coaching, that we've seen in the coaching changes. I mean, it's ramped up the calendar so much. You're seeing firings during the season. Yeah. Everything is just wild as far as that. And so that's been, and I get it too, because gosh, you want to get you have to get your recruiting class in place, be able to tell kids like, all right, here's our offensive coordinator, here's what we're doing. So the whole calendar gets ramped up. So that's not a good thing either, because it creates a wild, wild west even more so during the year. So I saw a couple things about, making it, maybe right after the national championship, you have a signing day, which would be mid-January or something like that. So, I could see that maybe happening, or, do you just go back to what it used to be? I don't know. I did like it. I liked for everything else I liked about it. And I think we've just, like anything else, I mean, you find things that end up being a bigger problem maybe than you anticipated on the front end. On the back end, it becomes problematic. And I think that's what we're kind of where we're at now with the coaching circus and guys just moving around everywhere during the season. So, I think that's, the transfer portal has also done some of that, but I think it's more so just the coaching cycle.